I get kind of thirsty sitting here. So that's why I have a few minutes to knock out the van to try to grab a little something to drink to bring over.
You're in the safe zone.
That's what you think.
Well, I guess if no one has any objection, we can get started. So I'll do it formally. Call the meeting to order, and we'll take roll call. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Herrera. Here. Commissioner Huppertz.
Here.
And Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. If you need a few minutes to take a look at it or suggest changes, go for it.
It's fine. I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, approval of the agenda has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is approval of the minutes from the P&Z Commission meeting of June 4th. I didn't see anything that I would suggest correction.
I have a question, though. I sent you an email, I don't know if you saw it, but I kind of forgot how the ordinance applied to planning and zoning. There was something, I mean, we're not really looking at the animal ordinance, but it was, how it fits in with the zones? Is
Yeah,
that what
there's just a portion of, there's an animal control ordinance that's standalone. The one that you approved is just the sections that were put into the zoning that pertain to businesses that deal with animals.
Businesses, that's what it
Yeah.
was, because I kind of reading the minutes, I don't think that was quite clear to me. Because I remember us talked about it, and I thought, well, I'm reading this, and I can't remember what we talked about. Yeah, that makes sense, but I don't think it's actually comes out and spells that out. You told about all the discussion, but, or maybe I just,
Right here, this one here. types of-
I think it's early on, where it talks about
Yeah, conditional, it's
matching.
right like the second sentence.
Yeah, matching.
maybe it is, let me look.
I circled
Yeah.
that,
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for the staff under sign ordinance. It says, there's a statement, it was also discussed that the current sign ordinance was found to be unconstitutional. I think it would be helpful if there's a few words put in there as to why it was declared unconstitutional.
Did we discuss it? Why it
I
was?
don't remember discussing why it was.
I don't remember discussing it.
The only thing I recall, and I'm trying to recall if I heard it here or in 5 other places, was the unconstitutionality of regulating signs by content. And I don't know if it was really covered here or...
No, I don't think
No,
we
there's been
discussed
so
it.
much discussion about it.
That's really what it is it was unconstitutional. They said it was unconstitutional because we were putting a time limit on it.
Commissioners, staff. So it was deemed unconstitutional based off of, I want to say, Gilbert versus, or someone versus Gilbert in Arizona. It was in Arizona, but it was ours specifically because we have one section that allows for temporary signs with respect to the real estate, and then we have on the political signs, that's a separate cutout. So we're treating 2 different things. Basically, we're treating the same thing differently in 2 different sections. And we can't regulate content, so if you wanted to make a statement on a sign and just put it up there, we couldn't regulate that, and so we can't really tell someone what they can put on their sign. Or in our specific ordinance case was we were treating the same thing, temporary signs, differently in 2 different cases, and we can't do that. We have to treat them all the same.
Well, maybe we should say in here why,
we can't go in the minutes though.
No.
It's
just-
It's just
who said-
what happened during that meeting.
Meeting that meeting.
what meeting was it that it said in then?
The last meeting.
Last meeting.
I mean,
Well, no,
but who
we were-
said that it was unconstitutional? I mean, it's not in there, we could at least say who said.
Because we didn't go into details, she just told you that was why we were doing it.
Well, maybe the way to say it is that, the person that said that should be listed there.
It was
Well,
discussed.
it was said to
It was-
staff.
And it was in a prior meeting.
Yeah, it was said to staff in a prior meeting, and I just off the cuff
Ah.
said it.
Okay.
Right, so the mention of it on June
Yeah.
4th was, it came from town staff,
Okay.
as it did tonight.
Well, it was just,
Yeah.
and I wasn't at that meeting, so that's probably why I was confused a little bit, because I think something like that would be interesting to know.
I mean, I just want to
What
know
the thinking was.
who started thinking that this was unconstitutional, because, so it came from town.
Thinking.
Okay, well, I guess, you didn't make it clear, though, in the minute when we were talking
No,
about it.
it was just, I just said it off.
Off the cuff. I guess,
Had you found a mistake in here you said earlier?
Yes, I told you I didn't want to bring it up.
No, that's fine, I'll correct it.
On the
No
first
take
page
backs.
of the minutes, item 4, second line, Chairman Stanton introduced the next item and asked staff to present.
Asking.
Asking. But I didn't want to be nitpicky, that
No,
nitpicky.
it's fine.
Spelling is not.
That's why I
listed on
told
the
you
job description.
informally,
I guess I'm ignoring spell check these days.
Okay.
she's probably in a hurry, Marty, just to get these things out.
All it does is prove I didn't read it.
Well, good.
This isn't about these minutes, but I sometimes wonder how much discussion we should be really putting in our minutes. Should all discussion, because we had the conversation maybe a year or so ago, that every little detail of what somebody said wasn't necessarily needed to be in the minutes.
Right.
And,
There's some
because
things
you're
that-
putting an awful lot in
Yeah.
these minutes, every discussion, I'm not sure that should necessarily be in there.
If there's something that's going to be going to town council later, I really put a lot into these minutes
Yeah.
of what was said and what was discussed and things like that. Otherwise, I try to limit it. But if it's something that is going to eventually hit up there, that's why I'm putting so much into these.
Okay. I mean, the ladies, their discussion about what the dogs and stuff like that, I'm like, that really kind of wasn't nothing to do with us. I just
Yeah.
wondered if it really
But it's
was.
not near over.
I'm sure it's not near over. Matter of fact, I plan to come Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if there are no other changes or requests for clarification, I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and approve the minutes of June 4th.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes from the meeting of June 4th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next item is the road surfacing priority list. Norton is smiling.
We have our two guys here, so you guys can ask
Okay.
them all the questions that you have. Norton Hittinger, the road supervisor, and Warren Forrest, clerk treasurer.
Commissioners, good evening.
Hi.
Commissioner Felton, you said road surfacing. I just want to clarify, in regards, are you speaking about new asphalt paving for
Oh,
roads?
no, I'm just reciting what's in the agenda, just verbatim.
I was asked to change the wording to road surfacing in case it wasn't going to be a paving, it was going to be something else.
Okay, so we're talking about new construction then,
Yes.
rather than maintenance. And we have multiple roads that everybody wants paved.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure you've probably heard that from a lot. Our arterial roads are the ones that usually get the first attention, so, which would be
You speak up
like,
just a little bit. You're a little bit hard to hear. I'm sorry.
be like Horton Road, Venus Road, those are our arterials. Nugent, Broken Arrow, those are more your arterial roads that we've concentrated our paving on. I think our next one in line is church. We just got some funding for, so.
Well, we also received funding for Horton Road, but not for paving, for chip seal. So that one is going to entail the existing pavement that's there when it changes from frontage road to Horton is going to be, the plan is to pulverize that existing asphalt and then put in some base course and then chip seal essentially from where it turns to Horton Road, from frontage road to Horton Road, and then do a double penetration chip seal all the way to Dinkle. So there we did receive co-op funding from the state for that. So with the co-op funding, the town will receive, I think right now our current match is 25%. Is what we receive our contribution would be 25%. So we're roughly, we're going to be putting in 50,000 and we're going to be receiving approximately 150,000 for that project. And that's co-op funding. Now the Church Street funding is MAP funding. It's the same percentage. And there are two different state programs that we apply for as the town. So the MAP funding will cover, once again, it's the Municipal Arterial Program, I believe that's the acronym stands for. And it's same thing, just specifically for roads, and it has to meet certain criteria to qualify for it. So with that on Church, we plan to put in a drainage structure where the draw goes through, and then pave it for that last mile. So we'll have connection between 344 and 333. We'll have that connected via Williams Ranch. That'll all be paved, and that was the main push for that. Now in the past, what the town has used co-op funding for has been to more fix up existing roads. So I don't know if you recall the asphalt we did on Dinkle 2 years ago, and then the mile or a little bit over a mile of chip seal on Dinkle as well to kind of fix those rough areas. That's typically what we'll use co-op funding for, but in this case, we applied and we figured, hey, let's try and let's see if they'll bite on it, and we can actually put some new hard surface on. So that's how that funding came about. But normally co-op we try and use to kind of fix existing. I think this next round that we're going to hopefully apply for will be for the portions on Frost Road, maybe doing another double penetration chip seal. And the chip seal, it's our most cost-effective way to kind of extend the life of the road. It's still gonna break apart, but it buys us a little bit more time. We just don't have the funding or the mechanisms to get funding to even keep up with the existing pavement. So the chip seal allows us to kind of buy a little bit more time because Norton, how many miles of paved road do we have? Or hard surface?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think we've got about 18 miles of hard surface road now. So, and unfortunately, when we put those in, they do require maintenance. And it's not something that once you put it in, it's just great forever. It's, we just paved West Hill Ranch about 4 years ago, and it's already having failures in it now. So,
Wow.
Yeah, these roads unfortunately do require maintenance.
But it's doing much better than I ever thought it would. Seriously.
With respect to the maintenance on the hard surfacing, so the town is in the process of completing essentially 17 miles of crack and alligator repair. I don't know if you've seen the crews around putting the tar in the cracks. And that's, once again, just to extend the life of the roads, of those hard surfaces. And I guess something to keep in mind as well is, that project alone was approximately $120,000 to take care of 17 miles. Norton in his department, he has a very limited budget for maintenance, and so he had $250,000, and we used $120,000 of his budget for that, and that's typically where he would pay to, put base course on the other existing roads, to buy the materials needed to fix things up. So, we do have a limited budget when it comes to materials, and so it's looking at the roads in the priority list, that's something to keep in mind as well.
What did you say his budget was?
Just for the maintenance portion of the road, for maintenance grounds, was $250,000.
And does applying tar the way you described, it's the same for chip seal or asphalt, no difference? You can apply tar to maintain, to repair cracks and such,
Well,
regardless of the
The
surface?
crack filling that we're doing now is anticipation of doing a layer of chip seal over some of our existing paved
Oh,
roads.
okay.
Like Quail Trail, Church, Dinkle Road, Frost Road, that
Yeah.
are now starting to crack. And so if I just go over that without putting the tar in the cracks, then it doesn't stick in the cracks, the chip seal doesn't, and the cracks
Okay.
stay there, and which allows water to
Yeah.
penetrate and
You get new
and
cracks.
it falls apart that much faster. So,
Okay.
I did not realize Frost Road was part of Edgewood's maintenance.
Frost,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Which way?
We start at 344 and go west for approximately 2.5 miles.
That's the town of Edgewood has to do that. Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
You'll see signs that say county maintenance ends, county maintenance begins.
The county, I thought it was the county.
Well, parts of it used to be, and with our infill annexation that we finalized last year, there was about a mile section in there that the county maintained, and we just took that over last year. So we now, like I say, have that 2.5 miles from 344 that we maintain.
Wow, so that's an extra expense.
And unfortunately, most of the time when we inherit the roads from the county, they know that we're gonna do it, so everything stops.
Yeah.
As far as any type of their maintenance and stuff, so, we usually have to invest quite a bit of money in them once we get them.
Yeah, just getting them up to standard. Yeah.
Try to, yeah.
So you say Quail is chip sealed? That's chip sealed?
No,
Oh,
it's
it's-
paved right now.
I'm trying to think of what chip seal looks like. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
That's what I'm wondering.
The frontage road going by Wildlife West,
Okay,
that's chip seal.
okay.
Okay. Dinkle Road used to be from about Homestead going out, used to be all chip seal. And we overlaid portions of it, but there's still about a mile in there that we just last year did a double penetration chip seal over top of the existing chip seal was there so that we could extend the life of it and hopefully another 7 years, because all of our co-op funds were going to that road specifically to try and preserve it, and nothing else was getting taken care
So we're
of.
putting chip seal over chip seal to repair it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I didn't quite catch Horton. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. Where on Horton from?
I thought you said
The
Dinkle.
double penetration that Juan was talking about is from Dinkle Road going south towards Wildlife West. And there's a portion of it that's paved right now, but the pavement's falling apart.
Okay, so that's what
And
you're
so
going to do.
we're gonna grind that all up, regrade it all, add base course to the section that doesn't have any base course right now, and then do a double penetration chip seal on that. And that goes almost to Wildlife West, or almost to the horse arena, let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's south of Dinkle. Yeah,
South of
not-
Dinkle.
Because the other way it's paved.
Yeah. And that's, we're talking a mile there, we're talking approximately $200,000, just so you kind of get an idea. Asphalt pavement for that mile would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $1 million, depending on any type of drainage improvements that had to be made and stuff, so. Just the paving is about $500,000 per
And
mile.
it's just residential. I mean, people, do they come through the, they just
There
come
are a
through?
lot of people that use that as a shortcut to get to 344.
That's
It's
what I was
amazing
wondering
how
is
much
why
traffic
that.
that
Oh,
gets.
coming from Dinkle up and then?
They come eastbound on
Okay.
Dinkle and then turn, and our clerk's one of those people that do that. But, yeah, they turn and they cut through and
Oh,
go
I
through.
didn't, okay.
Yeah, I had no idea that road had that much traffic. That's why I was going to
Yeah,
ask you
and
why
you
that
wouldn't- you
road
wouldn't
was
think so.
chosen,
You would think
because
that most people would go down to 344 and use 344 because it's paved. There's a tremendous amount of traffic that uses that.
Because it comes right out and you can just get right on the freeway, just right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's no signal lights to contend with,
Right.
and so.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a clarification. We have a chart that was shown in the literature we got. And you mentioned it was 18 miles of road, but this one says 11.6 miles of road.
That was what was in the packet.
Was that at
That was,
12?
yeah, that was what.
That was my question.
That's what they did back in, what, 2012?
2012.
Yeah, so I was just showing an example of what could go in there, because we have to update this. So I wanted to get your input on what you guys wanted in here when
I
you
mean,
send it
I had
up.
no problem with the chart in there,
Yeah.
but I did have a question, and that triggers the question is, what has been the changes, the challenges? We had, what, since 2012, we had 2,000 or 3,000 more people living in the city limits. And how many new roads, we have new roads, or they just all, you haven't put it in new roads since 2012? I mean, I just,
Well,
trying
since
to understand a little bit.
2012, the town has put in asphalt, and they took out that, was it the bond election?
Yeah.
So they put in the mile of Horton Road, Rainbow Road, Walker Road, Entrada del Norte. Those are the new roads that have been paved.
I guess I'm asking, are we keeping up with the population increase? Or if we are, then how are we going back and fixing some of the other roads that were already here?
If I could, I think the increase happened quite suddenly, though, by infill. There was, we took in a lot of property that had people on it, some of it didn't, and it came with roads. So rather than people moving here.
And unfortunately, as I stated before, when we take over county roads, it's usually not in great shape. And if you go
Yeah.
over here and you drive Maple or Birch or Willow Road or Roberts Road, any of those are ones that we took over in the infill annexation. And they're nowhere near any standards. They're
Right.
16 feet wide,
Gee.
barely. If it rains, people drive down the middle and can't pass each other. They have to pull into a driveway to get by. It's
Yeah, it's bad. Should have known that.
unfortunately very substandard.
So that flavor does not come out in this discussion of the priority list. The flavor that we got, roads we picked up from the county, and then some of those roads were way worse than the roads that were, in the existing city. And it seems like the problem is even bigger than I thought.
Fortunately, just so you kind of have an understanding of what happened prior, in the last 6 years, there were 4 years there that my budget was cut almost in half for maintenance. So we were trying to maintain roads with no money for materials and stuff. It's only been in the last couple of years since the new administration got in that my budget went from like 120,000 to 200,000. Now I'm up to 250,000 for materials. So we've been struggling to keep these roads up, and unfortunately even our roads are lacking right now. We're trying to catch up and get them back up to standards.
Yeah, Aspen Road, you did all the way from Church all the way around to, that
Yes.
was nice.
That-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
That really
The-
needed
the
it.
thought
Because
being
it was
so,
on-
And
it
so
was on
you're
the-
saying it's nice now in comparison to what it was
Yeah.
before that?
It was on the news.
Yeah.
It was the story on the news.
the thought behind that too was, okay, we just brought in all these new roads. These people are going to expect it. Which road services the most people?
Right.
So that's why we picked Aspen as the road to let's put some base on there. And I remember that news story with, was it Channel 7, I believe, or
Yes, one of those, yeah.
so I remember that. And I even have friends who live along there with staff that lives out there, and they're like, oh yeah, we see the county, maybe once every other quarter. I mean,
That happened a couple of years after I started here, and I remember the howling from the residents over there.
And then they
County
put
did nothing.
the culverts, they tried putting the culverts in there, but some of them really have already gotten buried and, with the roads. But at least it's kind of a main road to get around to 344, or
Yeah.
Dingle, yeah. So that,
Well, and even if it's not an arterial, though, it relates to some of the other criteria. You know, how many people live on that road, fugitive dust. Clearly, it was a safety issue if it's only 16, you know, some of them are only 16 feet
People
wide.
tend to get upset when they drive their car on the road and they get stuck on it.
Yeah,
But that's, it seems like you've been forced because of budget to be in an ad hoc mode. You know, we got to do what we can this year, but how do we do the planning long-term to meet the role, you know, when we get another 2,000 or 3,000 people here?
Commissioner Lee, I think that's what you guys are tasked with.
I know.
The report from 2012 captured a snapshot of what it looked like in 2012. Your task, part of it, is to update it and answer those questions.
That's why I'm asking, you
Right.
know, for the expert's opinion on these things.
Right.
Because it seems like our job is to make it less ad hoc and more maybe planned, and, you know, if we can do
That's
that.
the theory.
That's the theory.
well, no, I'm sorry.
That's right.
One way to do it may be to, you know, have changes to how we do subdivisions and such, so that no one builds a bunch of houses on 16-foot roads, you know, or 20-foot roads. Currently, we let people go, I think it's to 59 in a subdivision
Right, it's
before,
still triggered.
yeah.
The other thing is, don't stray too far off the reservation either. The original one is, just give us a list of roads that you would prioritize, and, you know, we'll take it from there. Try to find the funds, the money, stuff, et cetera. But, yeah, I think that, I would make that your first priority, and then from there, you know, you might speak a little bit about events since 2012. You probably put a couple paragraphs in there about what's happened with the infill and stuff like that. But I think I would stick to mostly just trying to build on that list. Some of those haven't been done, bump them up, and begin
Right.
adding some more in
Well,
behind them.
you've already messed up my priorities by paving Church and, you know, Horton, and it kind of leaves us with Steeplechase and Venus and, you know, a couple others that,
All worthy candidates.
yeah.
The church carries a lot of traffic.
It does,
It
for
does.
sure.
That's a biggie there.
And there's potentially economic potential, you know, economic development
And church,
in having that connect to Williams Ranch.
that section of church, you would think that most people would bypass that.
Oh, no.
To get to Walmart, that you would think, in my mind, but they don't. I know, there's a tremendous, we're out there every week grading it.
Right.
because it
Well,
gets
when
so
they
bad.
leave Walmart, it's easier to go down Church when they're leaving. They don't have to deal with the lights.
They don't have to deal with the lights.
Yep.
The town and.
Apparently signal lights trigger the, let's go this way.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is it fight or flight?
Well, as someone with really horrible luck that hits it, you know, we have 4 lights in town, and if I go the route of Dinkle, I hit all 4 lights going to work.
Yeah.
That's why I do. Now, sorry, all joking aside, Commissioners, so one thing that the council did do, for the first time, they enacted property tax. Now, that property tax has been pledged to the roads. So one thing that'll do is it actually, Commissioner Lee, to answer your question, it actually now dedicates funds specifically to the road, where in years past, I mean, everything for the road department was purely a subsidy off of the general fund. So this at least, you know, guarantees the funding for the road department. And so just
That's a major statement right there.
yes, and just to let you know, so prior to that, the main source of funding was general fund. Now, there is a gas tax, and the gas tax portion does come in, and that goes directly to the roads, but that's approximately $120,000 a year. So when you're looking at the budget, when you're looking at a, you know, $750,000 budget, you know, for the roads, $120,000 coming from gas tax was heavily subsidized by the general fund. So that's why the governing body enacted the property taxes and pledged that to the roads to not only just offset the subsidy, but also guarantee that there will be funding for the roads. Because if we have a bad year or something, oh, you know, sorry, Norton, we have to cut your budget, we can't give you as much. Now there's something that, okay, now you're getting, and I think this next year, they're gonna be, with gas tax and the property tax, they're gonna get about $500,000 just from, you know, those dedicated funds versus depending on what's available in general fund as something extra.
So this road that's going by Wildlife West though on Horton East, it wasn't on the priority list at all, so, I mean, it's something that's been talked about, but it wasn't on our, wasn't on our priority list
Correct,
from before.
Commissioner.
So what made it become sudden
Well,
high
As I
priority?
stated earlier, so we typically try and use the co-op funding to repair or maintain existing. And so that was the initial thought was, well, let's repair or maintain the existing, which was that asphalt that's currently there. Well, we put in and asked for additional funding from the state. They gave it to us, and that's how we're going to get to do that. Was it more than 3/4 of them or a quarter mile?
There's a half mile of existing pavement and a half a mile of dirt in there.
So that's what triggered that, is we were actually originally looking to maintain it, and we asked for extra funding, and that extra funding will let us just go all the way to Dingle.
So it'll complete it is more what it's going to do. Okay, so I just wondered how it got on the priority.
And Commissioners, we had a preliminary drainage report done here in about the last 6 months that identified 9, I don't know if you've seen this or not, identified 9 areas here in town that Dennis Engineering had originally started on, and then we have another engineering firm finish it up. I believe that drainage study cost us $50,000. Now, that was 9 areas, and I'll let you peruse, this is my copy of it, but I'll let you take a quick look at it, it's in there. This is a map that I took and kind of marked up of where all the drainage issues in town are, where there's draws and no culverts.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
hope
a
my
big one.
road's not on.
And so, no, these are just on town maintained.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, good.
And so this will just kind of give you an idea. We spent $50,000 on 9 locations. Each red knot represents a drainage concern.
Yeah, they look familiar, some of them.
Quite a few along
It will
Horton.
kind of give you an idea of how much more money we need to invest just in planning.
I see a lot of them are on Horton.
And that's just the planning portion of it. Then you have the installation of structures to correct those drainage issues. So I think you can see that we're faced with a whole lot of money.
Yeah, and that's all dirt, isn't it, north? Yeah,
Most of that is.
yeah, going north on Horton to Frost.
Most of that's all
Bad
base
dirt.
course dirt roads
Yeah.
at this point, yeah. Now, in our drainage study, we did have some areas, the areas that were studied are existing paved roads. Like Edgewood 7, there was a section on West Hill Ranch that was identified that needs to be upgraded. So, even in our existing paved roads, we have quite a few spots. We're Bachelor Draw across the Snakeville Road,
Yeah.
there by Rainbow Road, be a major cost to us.
That's where the
Have you seen the drainage
mailboxes
structure
are?
on Horton Road that
Yeah.
that got installed last year? On at
No, I can see
Bachelor Draw, the bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
One back there.
I
Well,
went down.
that's about a mile uphill. If you can think about it, the farther downstream you go, the larger the structures have to get because of the increased area, drainage area. So when we have to fix up Dingle Road out here, right now there's, I think, 2 48-inch holes that go underneath it, woefully inadequate.
So that needs to be
I
upgraded.
believe the structure on Horton Road is what they call a 5-barrel structure, which means there's 5 sections. I think they're approximately 10 feet or 12 feet wide by about 5 or 6 feet high to allow water. That's how much water comes through.
That's a lot, if we ever get rain.
So these, what I'm looking at in this binder
Mhm.
is detailed photos of these red spots.
Well-
Some of them?
That was the preliminary study that the engineers had done. I don't know, I'm not sure whether I included those on this.
Okay. No,
Commissioner,
I'm curious if,
but-
this could be used to kind of get a sense of how big a job each of these red
Yeah,
spots
yeah,
are.
and, yeah, you could kind of drive around it.
like I say, there's,
Yeah,
we
some of them would
we
be.
have a whole lot of money facing us in regards to.
Just the drainage.
Just the drainage improvements, right, much less paving.
Do you also know which roads are costing the town the most to maintain? Because, you know, if you're spending a lot of money and we can
Well,
cut that down.
the roads, I guess how I would identify them is the roads that we have, how much maintenance we have to do on. Church Road is one. East Venus Road is one. Horton Road is one. Nugent Road. They're all arterial roads, and they get quite a bit of traffic. Now, the farther you go north, it tends to diminish a little bit, but Horton Road, like I say, and East Venus, there's a tremendous amount of traffic on those roads every week. And most of the time we're out there, we try to be there every week to 2 weeks on those roads and grading. Because if we don't, we have people screaming.
So East Venus connects with another,
East
Is it
Venus
just
goes all the way to
residential?
Bassett Road, and then
okay.
But it
our
doesn't-
Venus comes back down to Dakel. The section that gets the
didn't know
most
that.
heavily traveled is from Mosley Road
Right.
west.
Yeah.
There's about a mile
But it does,
that
you're saying
isn't
it
paved.
connects? I've never noticed a connecting road over to Dayton.
Bassett
Or
Road,
does it
Bassett
connect?
Boulevard, actually. Bassett Boulevard goes up and connects, and Venus tees
Hmm.
into it.
Do people use that? Oh, because it looked
That's a
like,
school bus route,
oh,
too.
'cause I say it looked pretty bad last time I looked at it.
All the residential
Oh.
in there.
And
is
there's a lot of residential
Just
in
on
there.
the
Yeah, I
east.
know there is a lot of residential
I
back
didn't know it
there.
went through either, yeah.
Yeah, it goes a mile past Mosley and dead into Bassett.
What about steeplechase? It was on our list.
Steeplechase gets quite a bit of traffic. The only good thing about Steeplechase
It's,
is it's a curved road, and people tend to slow down on it.
Hmm.
So it doesn't generate as much maintenance for
Maintenance.
us. I mean, we still have to get up there every 2 to 3 weeks to maintain it, but it's not as bad. Our nice straight arterial roads.
People
where
go
tend
fast.
to go faster, tends to,
yeah, I thought
Generate more.
Steeplechase was kind of back off in there, but do school buses go back there too, or?
which
Steeplechase?
Steeplechase, yes, that's a
Yeah.
school bus route.
See, like-
Looking at the table in our handout, you know, in our packets here, in fact, Horton, that you guys are going to take care of, right? Oh, no, you're not going to. That's West Hill Ranch. Oh, well, you are, to Dinkle, that last little piece of it. That has pretty high traffic, not a ton of houses compared to some. You maintain it weekly, and it costs you like over $60,000. Well, this is old data from probably 2012.
And just to kind of give you a ballpark figure right now, when I put just 2 inches of base on our arterial roads for a mile, it runs us about $23,000 right now.
Okay.
And so we're just going into a new budget cycle, we're gonna get new quotes, so that'll increase.
So that one, Horton, was a big maintenance cost,
It's,
and it's about to be, we hope, a little bit reduced when it's not, doesn't have that chunk of dirt anymore, but we'll see.
North of Nugent to Frost, that is horrible
Yeah, that's,
challenge.
north of Frost,
North of
Nugent.
or north of Nugent, oh, that is a unimproved.
I didn't think that was considered a, do people really use that?
Now, commissioners, another thing to keep in mind, so when the town's looking at working on roads, we definitely want this, that's why we're asking you to look at this paper priority list, but another way that roads get on the list, but on the town's radar is through the ICIP process. So Church Road, that was actually one that was brought in by petition. The public came in and requested it, and there was 130, 140 signatures petitioning to look at that road. We've also had people come in and request Appaloosa, Mustang, Pinto. So we've had quite a few public, input when it comes to the roads as well. We're just requesting that their road get looked at as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that's why if the town might do a road that's not on a paving priority list, it's probably spurred by one of those movements off of the ICIP or something.
have you adopted those for maintenance, Pinto and Mustang?
Pinto and
Okay.
Mustang are,
They're yours.
they are ours.
I mean, if I look at this list from 2012, Steeplechase jumps out as expensive to maintain, a lot of homes on it. Well, not terribly expensive, but a lot of homes. School bus stops, of course. Square H jumps out, and Venus. East and West. Those three are still high on the priority list and waiting for something to happen. So if you couldn't do all three of those, what do you do? Yeah,
And that's kind of, unfortunately, I mean, you know, we'll put those roads are actually on the town's ICIP list as well. So if you guys are able to get the priority in line by the end of, or by August, we can get those put back on, you know, like say take the top 3 priority from the paving priority list and include those in the ICIP. Now, let's just say Steeplechase, for example. I don't know what it would cost to pave with all the drainage improvements and stuff, maybe 1.5, 1.6 million, versus Square H, it might be 750,000, or, you know, East or West Phoenix, they might be a little bit lower because they might not need as many improvements. Well, when we put them on the ICIP, then we go to the state and ask for funding, and if they say they just give us a little bit, it might not be enough to do, say, Steeplechase, but hey, we can take care of Square H or East or West Venus, then we'll apply that funding for there. So it's not like where the town's intentionally saying, even though this one you had a higher priority, well, we have the funding to take care of it now. And part of the problem with the state, I guess, with their budget shortfalls lately, in the past, municipality could kind of bank their legislative appropriations until they had enough to do a project. Now the state kind of frowns upon
yeah,
it.
use it or lose it.
If you haven't used it within like a 2-year period or even encumbered it, they're going to pull it back to give it to someone who will use it.
Right.
So that's kind of the problem we're in now, where we really can't bank enough to do like one of those big 1.5, $1.7 million roads. So we're having to then come back and look at something else. And that's kind of why the general direction was given for staff and stuff to kind of change this to a surfacing priority list versus a paving, because in some roads we might have to look at doing just kind of a cheaper option just so we can
Right.
get something on there to.
Focus on the drainage. And,
Yeah, and so that way it's not as expensive and the town could potentially do more.
Let me ask you this. If I were to say tonight, well, you know, East Venus, West Venus, Steeplechase, and Square H are on my priority list, can you, in your minds, put a price tag on each of those? You have some idea what they would cost each? So let's say chip seal.
Not to chip seal, I do have some, and I'm not sure how accurate they are, but they're several years old. They're a little bit dated estimates for those roads for paving.
For
I
asphalt.
think the straight ones, like East and West Venus, at the time, a couple years ago, was roughly 750,000 for a mile. For those ones, Steeplechase, what I want to say was about 1.5, 1.6 million. Square H was about $1 million.
So 750K was Venus East and West?
More or less.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
not taking into account doing any, and at the time when I had those estimates, I didn't have that drainage report to where I called for the bigger structure. So that was just looking at what's there existing. It's relatively straight, relatively flat. So 750,000.
And that's about per mile, okay?
When they
So
did-
West Venus is about 3/4 of a mile,
Yeah.
and then the section of East Venus out in Oaks is just about a
When they
mile.
did that mile of Venus that they did do,
Right.
the east, that was about 550,000.
About that much to finish it.
But unfortunately, there's no culvert where it ends at
There were a
344.
few, we had existing culverts in there,
Yeah.
and they added to them a little bit, so there wasn't a whole lot of drainage improvements that we had to make in there.
Right.
From
Yeah.
where we stopped going east, there are no culverts, so there will be quite a few.
Commissioners, there's one other thing I would recommend to you as you embark on this, trying to update that list. Site visits. Load up some night,
Yeah.
or have a meeting, and drive some of these roads, figure them out. Nothing beats a
Yeah.
visit to them, so,
Well, and days start getting shorter after next week, right? So,
yeah. it
The
could be a
two of
problem.
them have
Well,
the
we
day.
Rush it in. No, but seriously,
Yeah.
consider going out on site visits. come in, start the meeting, take off for an hour or two and go drive some of these roads.
I've got a question. I've heard before that they would have trouble shutting down 344, like to widen it up by the firehouse or something like that, because there's really no way to get around and circumvent 344 going north. But now that Horton's paved up to Dinkle, or up to Venus.
Up to Venus.
No,
Up to Venus, West Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they could use that to cut across like Dinkle and then go up. If Horton was paved all the way up, it would be a bypass for 344. And I've heard that if we have a flood or a fire or something, that would, does that enter?
If we have a flood, you don't want to use Horton.
No. But would that enter into our prioritizing roads, having like a bypass for construction on if they close 344?
Commissioners, I definitely think that's something you guys can take into account. I mean,
That might be something to look
Well,
at.
it may elevate the importance of West Venus, or you come down paved Horton, you turn right and go, all the way to 344.
Yeah, Horton's pretty bad.
Venus is pretty bad. It's pretty washboard.
yeah, it's, I mean, same thing as that piece from Venus to West Hill Ranch, same thing. I mean, it's that one little patch. Yeah, you drive the nice smooth asphalt, and then you're sitting there bypassing all the way up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what people will do, if they did have to use it as a bypass, and I'm sure they use it now, some, to avoid 344, they're not going to slow down. They want to get where they're trying to get, and that's where the washboard comes from. My road is now a washboard. It's a 600-foot road.
Second, you
And I-
fix them up.
Yeah.
Drive.
And I have people driving fast, and, they want to save those 8 nanoseconds to the stop sign.
If you were to finish Horton, you would put in a lot of culverts. That would be part of the project, though, right? To
Oh, okay.
fix the drainage and everything.
Wouldn't make any sense to pave them without doing the drainage.
Yeah, looking at this.
I'm curious about some. We've had a lot of interest, people coming in and talking to us about Square H. And then there's Venus, and I wonder if people are using Square H because Venus is so bad. If Venus was done, would that take some traffic off of Square H? Do we have any way to or if Square H is dead, would they just use Square H and not Venus? I mean, they're kind of close together there.
West Hill Ranch and Square H are very close together, so people using Square H purposely, I don't understand. If it was me, I would drive the half a block north and use the paved road.
Right.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because it's kind of a
It's got a curve in
turn.
it.
But they
stop.
evidently have a lot of traffic because we've had a lot of
Actually, I
people.
think when we did pave on West Hill Ranch Road, I think it took a lot of traffic off of Square H. I think a lot of people do that. I think they go up and use it, so, because maintenance on it hasn't been as bad as it used to be
Yeah.
prior to its paving.
Do you have to do a lot of maintenance on Square H?
We do it, but it's not as bad as it used to be. We had to be there like every couple of weeks. Now it's more like maybe once a month.
So the roads you have to be at doing the most maintenance, to me, makes me think that's maybe where the highest priority is. So that would be Horton, East Venus, and
West Venus.
West Venus. Well, they're going to do Church anyway, so.
Yeah.
But also, keep in mind that could just mean that that's where people drive the fastest as well, for
Yeah.
having to do a lot of
I
maintenance.
think one of the things you want to look at is how many residences are there associated with those
Right.
roads. Because like West Venus,
That's kind of what I was,
we have one house on it.
well, that's
Right.
why I kind of don't
But
understand.
we get a lot of people from the county on the other side of Horton Road that come out and use it to get to the street.
Yeah, West Venus rises up the list as a potential arterial, where East Venus goes up the list by number of households.
The only other thing I would also add, try to think when you do it, spreading it around. A little in the south, a little in the middle, a little over the
Right.
north. Try to find some geographic balance when you set it out.
Yeah.
So everybody gets a little something.
I think
Right.
that's a good
In the
point.
wintertime, I remember one time, having to drive into work, there was accident like in Zuzak or something on the freeway, you know, right at rush hour. So people were going on Frost and going and catching, and going down to the freeway that way, through Tijeras or through Cedar Crest. So I was glad Frost was paved, yeah. Because it was a long, I think it actually was going on for a couple of days. I don't remember what it was, but a lot of people were using that way too, Frost.
And Horton Road, as you were discussing, is, you know, being a bypass for 344. It would be nice if, even if we just got paved up to
Hill
West
Ranch.
Hill Ranch, because then
Sure.
if something did happen there by the middle school or something, people could go up and get back to 344 and stick them up to which they have pavement. Like the man was saying, if you do everything, do all of Horton Hall, you're going to have everybody in town screaming, why
Yeah.
are you paving that and not doing
Mhm.
my part? So,
Yeah.
Well, we'll be getting church done, so that's in this neighborhood, you
Yeah.
know. You know, if you have not a lot of funding, the cactus would be nice, because it wouldn't take as much to hit cactus, you know, as it does some of the.
That would be good
Big
with Parker Road, especially with the police over there every time we go out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you know, there's getting to be more businesses gonna want to come in, and so it'd help, I think, you got to look at the business aspect of this planning too, is
Yeah.
where the road's gonna help also businesses. The more businesses we get, the more taxes we can get and to do all the roads.
as soon as they get the sewer lines installed out here, yeah, I think this would be a very good candidate.
It might be good to have major roads, but then some minor ones that would be hit, if you don't have a lot of money, hit these, of these smaller funding that comes in. I mean, that might be, I don't know if that would be a good way to categorize these roads,
Small
maybe.
projects.
Big projects, the small projects. And that way, you get a little money, you know, like you all only had that little bit of area to do, so you thought, oh, we should finish that, you know. So,
And that's kind of how that section of Horton Road that we're discussing about chip
That's an excellent
sealing
idea.
came about, is because we had a section that was just falling apart, we could do something with it. And then, okay, I can't afford to pay the whole mile of road because we're talking $500,000, but we could squeeze a couple $100,000 out of the budget, you know, out of the state assessment, and the chip seal runs about half the cost of what has to be, that's what paving does.
and it holds up fairly good, the chip seal,
Yeah.
but not that good.
Yeah.
Depends on how bad a
That's
winter.
about about 6 to 7 years.
Oh,
If you keep on maintenance on it and do it like another layer of chip seal on top of it, you can extend that sometimes another, you know, 3, 4, 5 years. Just depends on the amount of traffic that it gets. We just had a section out on Dingle that ran from just about the east end up to Meadowlark. We did this last year, and it was starting to fail, and getting too bad. We patched it up, and then instead of just doing a single layer of chip on it, we did a double, and what they call a double penetration. We put oil down, put a layer of rock, and then come back and put another layer of rock and oil over that. So it ends up being about almost an inch thick. And so hopefully that will extend the life of that road another, say, 7 years. So that
But
we
in the
don't
long
have-
run, is that saving money, but not paving?
What's that?
Is that saving money, though, instead of paving, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, the ideal thing would have been to pave it. We didn't have any money. And so the option was let it fall completely apart and then go in and do a whole reconstruct on a mile, which would be, say,
$1 million.
$500,000
Yeah,
compared to, we did a double penetration chip seal out there for just a little over $60,000 on the lower mile on an existing road, so.
I need a more clarification from Juan. You said they got bond money to do Horton? Is that where
Yes.
that bond, I didn't realize that. Was that, and so that, when you get these bonds, that raises property taxes, correct?
That does, well, that type of bond, general obligation bond, was pledged specifically, I mean, it was from the property tax portion. There are several other bonding mechanisms that can be pledged against, let's say, gross receipts revenue or something, but the specific bond that took care of that, with the debt service is being paid by property tax.
So the mill levy now is going to all go to roads, what was taxed with that.
Correct. And,
So that should really help us start getting more roads done.
well, at least it'll guarantee that the road department will have, funding for it, whereas, and it's gonna cut down on that general fund subsidy, and it's kind of that whole, for lack of a better term, shell game, so to speak, of, oh, okay, well, now we're not having to give as much for roads, so now we can hire another police officer, or, maybe we can hire another police officer, and like Norton said, now, in the past, he was getting about 100,000, now he's up to 250,000 for his maintenance. We're able to, I guess, I don't want to say play, but we have more funding available to allocate other places where instead of in years past, it was just really tight and just a drain on the general fund. Now the general fund's doing a little bit better now because it doesn't have that constant strain. It has a guaranteed, the road department has a guaranteed funding source coming in, and it's going to help improve overall.
I think if you want to say I have $250,000 in the budget, this crack filling that we're doing right now, 17 miles of it, is $120,000. That's almost half.
I know, it's a lot.
And then you hope a piece of equipment doesn't break, right?
Well, it's contracted out.
Okay, that's good.
Because we can't do it. They're going to be out here 6 to 8 weeks doing it with 4 or 5 people. My whole crew is 3 other guys and me. So it's just.
Yeah, but if you burn
way too
half
much
your
for us.
budget on that, you have a bad winter, things get kind of thin.
So we should be thinking like, well, why pave Square H? And a quarter of a mile away, you've got Hill Ranch already paved, maybe double fill, or what, I can't remember what you call it.
Double penetration chip seal or something.
Yeah,
That
chip
might
seal.
actually work on that road. I think
Square
that's-
I just looked, there's no major red marks on Square H. So I
Chip seal
think it's
might work.
perfect one to take off the pave and put on the.
And I think something that maybe, Mr. Mayor, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I think maybe the Planning and Zoning Commission maybe wants to look at any new subdivisions that come in, maybe requiring them to be paved.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting when I made reference to our
Because
60 house standard.
I don't know how many residents I talk to that move out here, and their road is either a dirt road or a base course road, and the first question I get asked is, when are you going to pave my road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people want it, they just don't want to pay for it. They want us to pay for it.
Oh, well, they won't buy the land. If you're going to have to price the land that's been paved, it's going to be a lot more expensive. They're not going to want to buy it,
Yeah, possibly.
to be honest with you.
That's true, that is true.
But then, the problem is once they're in that house, then they're expecting the town,
Right.
if it's a road that we take care of, then they expect us to pay for it.
If it's put in with a really good base course though and built right, it can hold up a long time.
The problem then becomes maintenance, and I know this from
And like I say, right now.
personal experience on my
There's 4
road.
of us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we can keep throwing money at it. The problem is 4 people can only do so much. It gets to the point where then we have to start contracting stuff out.
I keep thinking about a case, I think I talked to you about it briefly at the last meeting, Commissioner Hubbard, where we worked a compromise with a proposed subdivision, this was many years ago, where they were just going to do it, and they were going to use an existing road that ran in front of 8 homes. That's how they were going to come in and out to build 59 homes, and expected those people to maintain the road because the covenants bound them to do that. And what we proposed was that they build a few, pave in front of them, sell them, build and pave a little more, sell them. Actually, that came from the developer. They said, well, maybe if we can make enough money on some sales to afford the next round, kind of building them in.
Commissioner, can I ask you which developer that might have been?
Well, I can name the road, how's that?
Did you name the road?
Rory Road was where it all
Rory,
took place.
okay. 'Cause I don't think there's been any paving done.
No, and nothing happened up there after.
And I think that was also talked about over on
Right.
Alexandria, which is the road
Right.
that goes to our sewer.
And after this was negotiated for Rory Road, nobody ever,
Yeah.
they haven't done anything yet.
That's it, yeah, unfortunately.
But,
that's-
you know, I always wondered if that was a possibility to you don't want to bankrupt people by
Oh, yeah.
telling them they have to pave the whole
In
thing.
theory, it's a great idea. It's
Right.
just whether in practice it gets done.
Phasing can happen though in a development agreement.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, is it has to be part of the approval up front.
Yeah.
That you agree to pave in phases, then you pave in phases, or you don't go to phase 2. So I've always wondered if that was possible to get out from under this.
Well, I'm impressed with the complexity of our job. All of a sudden,
How more complex it
it
just
dawns
got.
on me,
Yeah.
if we're gonna do what we're supposed to do, or at least what you said you would like from us, that's non-true. Because it's not just try to pave everything. You got the balances and trades are going to be really,
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
Like
And-
Square H, I would not pave Square H for anything, but I don't live on Square H. I
But
don't
the
know.
people who live on Square H want it paved.
Really?
They've been here,
As
they've been here
as Robert
asking for
said,
it.
everyone that's on a town-maintained road would like it paved.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, the reality of it, like you said, Commissioner Lee, chip seal job
But chip seal might be good
work
for
there.
some of these
Yeah.
roads.
There are some roads where that, like I said, that might be feasible, it is
Wow.
possible.
That sounds like a much more creative system than just keep raising taxes to get more money.
Yeah, I hate to see
That ain't
taxes.
gonna last very long.
What did they say they already had on there, on Square H? They already had some chip seal, didn't she say?
No,
that it was
no,
there's
kind of?
existing drainage. When they built that subdivision, they put culverts in across the roads and at the intersections and stuff, so.
Oh.
They,
The road's really
It's a good
pretty
road.
nice to drive.
It's a nice gravel road, actually.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, that, to me, that kind of thinking is going to be needed probably.
Yeah, it's plagued probably, Square H is, by washboard more than anything else.
Yeah.
And dust.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I look at the list that I've kind of sketched on the back of my packet here, and I'm thinking, well, if we take the mayor's advice too, you do one in the north, you do one in the south, you know, you don't want to load things up. And I think a lot of our population is in the south. So, you know, you say, well, which one am I going to do in the north? Is it Square H, or is it West Venus, or is it more of Horton? So that I can do steeplechase. So,
Well, and Commissioner, the other thing to keep in mind is what's been done also as well so far. So how much has been done in the south? how
Yeah,
much-
already,
and that's
yeah.
what
right,
because we
They-
paved Moriarty, we paved Duke, we paved.
They've done
West
some.
Willard,
That's right.
portion of it. And then we paved
True.
Walker and
Walker.
Del Norte.
You did a lot
Right.
already, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as Commissioner Lee stated, you guys got to have a wonderful balancing act to perform when it comes to selecting these.
well, then maybe it's, you know, you select 2 in the north and know that the next one, number 3, that might take place 2 or 3 years from now, will be in the south. So
See
you,
that little light bulb coming
yeah,
on.
so your priority list, you can't do a priority list year to year, it has to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of a continuous plan.
Skyline, another one. in the
I
south.
feel another table coming on.
This ICIP list, is this in stone, or is it a changing list?
It is a forever changing every year list.
And this is, and the council works on this list? I mean, we should be working all on the same,
Yes, and
who
that's why
determines
if you're
this?
able to get something put together, I'd like to put those priorities on. They're also going to change the way that we're doing the ICIP this year. The state has requested to make it more of a project that has a 10-year life, or, you know, like a shovel-ready infrastructure, so roads, sewer, you know, those types of projects. So a lot of the stuff that's on there will come off because the state, in their eyes, it's just not something they would consider doing. So I think this road paving priority list will definitely be bumped up
Yes.
towards the top.
Yeah, it's very doable in the short term.
And I also really do like your idea, Commissioner Hubbard, about the smaller roads. I mean, I think Cactus, Appaloosa, some of those, you know, that are less than a mile might be good candidates as well, especially when it comes time to lean years with the legislature, where they could potentially give us enough to do something on one of those roads versus, oh, okay, well, Edgewood's asking for too much. Who else is in my district? Okay, I'll give it to this county, you know, or I'll give it to this county or something. So those are all things to consider, and it's, you you know, it's a lot more complicated when you start thinking about the big picture and, okay, well, how do we choose this? How do we get these on this list? I mean, if we just chose all the top dollar things and stuck them on the ICIP, I doubt the town would ever get funding.
Right.
So I don't envy your job, I guess it's the
They have the
easiest.
big projects and maybe the small.
To what extent do you think the people who approve our ICIP requests look at how much we're taxing ourselves? The way a county commissioner put it to me once was, they don't want to pay if you're not willing to paddle your own canoe a little bit. So do they actually look at how much we're charging ourselves to do these things versus how much we're coming to the state asking for money from their general fund?
They absolutely weigh in on that.
Okay.
Well, I can add to that, Mr. Felton. Les Houston used to be in the state senate, and he was in here one night years ago as the town had hired him as their lobbyist up there at the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
And he told them that night, says, y'all need to do something. You need to bond yourselves, you need to, property tax or something. Because they do, in fact, legislators up there want to know, what are you doing for yourself?
Okay.
If you show up there and say, well, we don't have any property tax, we haven't bonded or anything, they say, oh, well, Moriarty or Stancha, they're doing that. We're going to help them help themselves. You're not doing anything for yourselves. I'm going to look around and see if there's anybody else who could use a little nudge. So it is important that we do what we can for ourselves.
Okay.
That does play a role in it.
I guess one of the things then I'll want to get a handle on for myself is how we compare to other municipalities that are trying to do what we're doing.
Well,
in
that
terms
might
of
be a little
tax.
outside the scope.
Okay.
In other words, you could do that, I wouldn't have a problem with that, and you could comment about it, I mean, certainly you can do
No,
something.
no, I'm thinking just
editorializing.
for myself.
Right.
I want to know,
Right,
I really don't know the extent to which we're taxing ourselves for
Right.
these things.
but
I don't feel that much of a bite.
let's stick kind of with the basics of adding to that list, and so you can present it.
Sure.
Like Juan says, if you can get it something, you got about 6-8 weeks in here to come to that last ICIP, that could be this commission's contribution. We've looked at these roads, prioritized them as best we can. We think these ought to go on the ICIP list,
We
at
should
least
probably
2 or 3 of these.
Okay.
Have our whys on there.
Right.
Or why nots.
Yeah.
Right. And that's your guys' contribution to that list.
Any other questions for visitors? Should we let them go home?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good
Thank you,
job.
guys. So what I'd like to see is some ideas, what you guys want this document to look like.
Thank you.
This one.
The 2012
Yeah,
document?
we need to update it. I'd like to, what do you think? Should we say tonight, you want to do next meeting, what roads you guys want? We can do like a majority says this one for number 1 and.
Well, do we want to do a site visit first?
You want to do that next meeting? Okay.
I mean, I've gotten out myself and kind of driven around on some of the roads, but I haven't looked at some of those short roads like Appaloosa, and so I think we should look at some. What happened on Mustang? Did they do something to it, or? I know they were in here at one town meeting, just curious.
Well, on Mustang, the thing with it's got a lot of dust, and there's one road up there that just goes off the wall, complaining about dust and stuff. But she's on Pinto.
Pinto.
She's Pinto.
Yeah.
Pinto.
Anyway, on Mustang, about the same thing. It's just narrow and a
Right.
lot of houses on both sides of it, and
There are a lot of houses right on off those little roads over there.
yeah.
And it'd be good to,
They have a really steep drop away on the north side too from the road.
Lorenzo,
I don't know what
the
the
chairman's not here tonight. He had a thing back in 2012. He was on the commission that year. And he'd sent out a little diagram of it, and he sort of did a sifting thing. It's kind of like sift it down through. Throw 10 of them, 12 of them up on the board, and then just gradually work them down, and you see a couple, 2 or 3 that like, here's ones we would go with. Short one, close one, over here one, this one, whatever. I like the idea of some longer ones and some shorter ones. If the money's not there for the big ones, consider these.
Yeah.
You might even stagger, have a long road list and then the shorter road
We'll
list.
make two columns, the
Right.
short ones, the long
Right.
ones.
For consideration either way.
things that are
And
more-
like I said,
that's-
but I would just start out and throw 8 or 10, 12 names up on there and then kind of just go back and forth. Well, this one's got that and it needs this. Maybe we should bump it up and move this one down a little bit.
That's gonna take a whole meeting or more just to do
I was
that.
going to say, might be a good idea just to do a workshop, go do a site visit, come back and just kind of knock it out like that or
Yeah,
something.
we need to do a lot of discussion on this, because, there's a
I
lot of
missed it
pros and
most of
cons.
the-
This is taking up quite a bit of discussion, just this part of
Right.
it, so I can imagine trying to go through each road. I would suggest maybe thinking about doing a workshop or something.
Yeah.
You guys want to do you want to do a Saturday workshop?
I can do that.
Go do a site visit on some of these. Let's see some of these little short roads too that
Okay.
have been problems, like Appaloosa and
And then what we
Mustang
can
and
do is,
Pinto.
do one of the maps where it shows how many houses and stuff like that is in that area.
And it needs to be the roads that have high population on them.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
A lot of fugitive dust.
A lot of fugitive dust.
That's one of the big things.
Yeah.
Because the dust with this drought, it's always going to be a problem. I guess they dump a lot of water on these roads too, which is a big expense.
What about June 30th for a workshop date?
That's a Saturday? Don't think I have any.
I think we have the building set aside for that church thing.
For that church thing?
Remember on the, trying to get easement and stuff like that?
Oh, okay. What time is that at?
I think it's about 11 o'clock, 10 or 11.
All day?
Whatever, an hour.
So,
You'd be out here anyway.
Well,
yeah.
you guys can meet over at the office, check in.
Yeah, we could do that.
And then take off and
Like
do your site
early,
visit from there.
when it's
Okay.
not so hot.
Yeah,
And then
so,
just come back and adjourn there and go
Yeah.
home.
all right. So you want to meet at Town Hall at 9?
On
Okay.
the 30th,
Yeah.
that'll work?
Yep.
Who's bringing the big vehicles?
We'll,
Yes, yeah, how are we going to do that?
we'll use the
We
town
have the code
vehicles.
enforcement.
Got that,
vehicle.
Code
you should
enforcement.
Probably take that other
Yeah,
Explorer that holds 4 or 5 each. Just drive around to them and
yeah. Okay, so 9 AM workshop. All right, I'll get that posted.
You had mentioned looking mainly at the population, next to the roads. Well, I live right off of West Venus there. And there's hardly any houses in there.
Right.
But before school and after school, it's just a steady stream of cars.
So it gets a lot of
So-
traffic through, all the way through from
Yeah.
340 over to Horton.
There's quite a few going that way, a lot go the other way to avoid all the gravel, I think. So it's, but the school buses go down there.
Right.
But before school and after school, when it's not those times, there's not a whole lot of traffic on that road, but it would be nice to have it paved just for those times.
Or double, what do they call that? Double layered.
penetration.
Well, at least there's hope of getting money to start getting some of them done. That's hopeful.
So West Venus stops at a certain point, right? And then it's dirt?
No, it goes all the way to, well, yeah, it's only,
crosses
But the
it's only
pavement
paved for
by the
about
school,
half a mile. so-
Past the school and then?
Just past the school.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So a lot of
then
those
it's
people you think
gravel
would come out
the
and
work.
go left turn, but they go around, not
Yeah,
avoid
they'll
that
go
road.
around and go out Hinkle or something that's paved.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are other roads that, if you look at them at one time, there's hardly anybody here. But there might be a church up there or something, and, at times it's a big traffic jam there. So
Yeah, it's true.
kind of got to keep those in mind too, and schools. We got the new Classical Academy
Oh, yeah.
starting up out here.
Well, there may be more people coming on Venus and get to that school across there
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Any further discussion on road surfacing? We're gonna do a workshop on Saturday, the 30th, and some site visits.
Yes.
Should we let Lorenzo know?
No, we're gonna just leave him right out of it.
Just tell him
since
it's
we
not
brought it.
Costa Rica, you're not
I
gonna
know,
go
right?
anywhere.
He's really good at analyzing data, too. He's really good at,
We certainly want to have Lorenzo.
yes.
Yeah, no, I'll send him.
Yeah, we want him to go. If he can't go, we shouldn't have it.
Unless
because-
he
really
wants to
will
sit
leave
on a
him
beach
out.
somewhere,
Yeah.
that seems to be the
He's-
thing.
Yeah, I know.
Check
It's
with
like-
him pretty quick in case we have to change the
Except I
date.
guess he's on work this time.
So he says.
Yeah. see if he checks.
Yeah.
There's gotta be one close by.
Yeah, he's good at he's good at taking information though and kind of analyzing it. He's, you know, he's real helpful that way.
Are we ready to move on to sign ordinance changes? Item 5 on our agenda.
Yeah.
Staff?
All right, so I just kind of threw something together just to get us started on it. I thought that it'd be easiest to start with residential zones before we hit commercial, because that's gonna be a little more complex. But, I wasn't sure, the way that I've always looked at signs in a residential area is you don't want big signs. If you have a home-based business, it needs to be something that you don't know that it's there, is usually the way it goes. I mean, I think some people have home-based businesses that have signs and look at me, and I don't think that's necessarily a good idea, but we were kind of directed to leave the home-based businesses alone. But as far as signage goes, I don't think we need big old signs in
Well, right now,
residential
they're not
zones.
even allowed to put signs up.
So anyway,
They're not allowed at all.
No.
yeah. I wasn't sure what you wanted to do on height, I couldn't decide, so I just left that open for you guys to discuss.
On what? What do you
On
want?
height,
The height.
Oh, the height,
like how high you wanted to put them, you know.
in residence?
4 square feet is the maximum I said for a residential area.
I think,
Do you want it
I think it's big.
2
For
by 2?
residential area,
2
though?
by 2?
And they don't even allow them at all now, so that would be giving,
And a minimum width of 1 foot, is that right? So you can exceed that, but it has to be at least this wide, which
Yeah.
would be a 4-foot-high sign. Okay.
Yeah. But it's up, it's up to you guys, I've just thrown some ideas out
Right.
here.
Well, I like to comment that I just keep remembering going down Frost and seeing the alpaca farm sign there, because they have a shop there, you can buy alpaca goods and stuff. But the only thing out on the street is, it's pretty close to 2 by 2, and it's not higher than the fence, it's,
And you're-
lower than the top of the fence, and it's tastefully done, and I don't think that'll ever bother anybody as for a home business there.
so it's 4 square feet, basically.
I mean, I think that's a starting point anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you were able to see it and everything, pretty good.
Well, and they're able to say alpaca ranch, that,
A little information on
little
it.
information on it. So thinking about your 4 square feet, that's probably the one, just drive up Frost Road, you can see it, and it's, that would be a good illustration of what you could do with a smaller sign, like 4 square feet.
And we don't care in those zones if it's wall-mounted or freestanding.
Right.
Right? The issue with freestanding then is going to be intersections.
Right.
Does it interfere
So
with
is it
traffic?
stipulated when it's a home business that it has to be on their property?
Everything has to be on their property.
Yeah.
I put in here, no signs in the right of way.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that that's gonna cause some issues. But here's the thing, if you drive up, Route 66 and 344, how many signs do you see in the right of way?
In the right of way?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Political or other?
Political.
Everything.
Sure.
Cowboy days.
Oh, yeah, every
Yeah.
200
Oh,
feet
yeah.
going
Yeah.
north
Oh,
on
okay.
344
I
right
guess
now.
And the thing is, those are highways, and you're not supposed to have anything in the right of way.
That's illegal.
So the easiest way to deal with this situation is don't allow them anywhere in the right of way. And I know that that's gonna cause some heartburn for garage sales and little league signs and stuff like that, but it's just they're gonna have to just do a little extra work and talk to property owners and put their signs there.
Like, you
Until
mean the
they're
ones
zoned.
like getting off the exit, and then they're right on the corner.
Right on the
And
corner.
you go around, yeah, and another corner.
Like Wildlife West does, they put their signs
And
like
one
that.
corner,
Yeah,
yeah.
so.
But I don't know how can these people advertise, I mean, what they're doing without,
They can go to the property owners and ask permission.
You've got
Right.
property right along all of that area.
In fact, I believe it's,
well, a lot of people put their signs on
right,
this way.
well, and I believe in the Gallup one that we're passing around, in their ordinance, how did it stipulate it? In fact, they have to have a written, they have to do an application for their sign or whatever, and wherever they are putting it, so if I'm gonna put it on Stephanie's property, I have to have that signed off by her in written form, notarized and everything else, and turned in, before they can get a sign permit.
Well, honestly, even for yard sales,
Well, I was gonna say that.
people who are serious about those.
Well, if they're doing a yard sale, I mean, that's at their own property, that's
No,
where
but
you're gonna put
what
it.
people do who really like yard sales,
Yeah.
They put
they
on
don't start
Facebook.
driving around looking for a yard sale. They know exactly where they're going. They look in the shopper or someplace else where there's
Well,
ads.
even if you go down Facebook, they have
And they're
yard
at
sales
the,
all
they're
the
at the
time
front of your,
online.
they're at the top of your driveway at like, you know,
Yeah.
5:45 in
Oh,
the
yeah,
morning.
those are hardcore yard sailors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, people like me look at the signs of the road.
Wouldn't that be hard to enforce? People put their yard sale with an arrow and stick it on a cardboard box down at the intersection, and then they're gone.
You're not gonna know who did it.
And it's
And
like,
you
you
have
got
to
the
have
lazy
their
ones
address,
that
I
aren't
guess.
gone.
Are
And
we
then
gonna-
that's
The
when we
only reason
enforce
why
it.
it would be kind of hard to enforce would be most of them have them on the weekends and we're not here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no, I mean, unless the law enforcement sees it and they can pick it up and say, here's your citation.
Oh, don't worry,
and-
they'll be there on Monday
They
when
will,
you're
that's
back.
what I'm saying,
They
they
stick
leave them.
around
But
for
it's
2 or 3
identifying
weeks.
exactly who it is and where it goes, so it'd be easy to
Yeah.
find.
Well, I've seen some with balloons on it too,
Yeah.
to kind of, get the
Help
attention.
people find where they're going.
They're always so hard to,
I just think, you know what, I think the signs look trashy, like, I always hated it over there at Walmart where the whole fence line.
yes.
And,
Yeah.
even the mayor's property is just covered, it's like one big sign and it's like, wow, it's just like one big billboard.
They cleared it off at one, I think it
Yeah, and
was
then
like
they're all
after
come back.
Christmas or something, and then now it's
It's all back up
starting
there
to
again.
come up again.
Yeah.
I actually pulled them out, took them off today, or
They-
yesterday or something.
They just put their
Nice.
signs there
They
without
don't-
asking
They
you?
don't ask you?
They don't ask nothing, they just stick them up there.
Oh, so can I pull them off for you?
Somebody did, all the political signs are gone, the only one.
I'm
left
talking
is-
to all of the signs.
Well, that one for, Sabella's karate shop or whatever, it's still up in that
It's closed, I just,
Church Street.
that's
market
it's
one,
closed,
out
the
of-
goddess is closed.
Couple other little ones.
We buy ugly houses, that one's up there by Cactus, I think it's right up there.
Yeah.
Cactus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
only
that.
about this big, yeah.
Who's gonna take all those signs that are illegal down, you guys?
I grab them when I drive by.
Mhm.
Jim and Joe all grab them. They drive by them and find illegal signs. They're always grabbing them and bringing them to me.
So then, and when we get this ordinance, you might would send them a fine for putting a,
Yeah, that's one thing that I haven't done. I haven't put, that they must come in and get a sign permit. I haven't put any of that language in. I just kind of wanted to get a base of, the.
what we would like to
The meat
have.
of it and see, and then
Mhm.
I haven't put any, what it's
Can't
gonna
get that
be.
far with the
And the enforcement side
enforcement part of it, yeah. Just kind of got to think of it at least a little bit, because,
Because,
how are we going to enforce it? Because
Right.
you can't enforce something, it's kind of a useless
mhm,
ordinance.
yeah,
Well, and height would have to be, eye level, of course, because some of them are down low, but at least, I think if they go up higher, you see them. You can actually read them from the car.
But do you want
How
them
was-
over the top of the fence, higher than the top of the fence? I don't.
No, I don't think so.
I think the material I drafted, I took a stab at getting all this into a table.
yeah. Take a look at this.
I did it not so much as, I didn't do zone by signs, I did signs by zone. So, you know, a user could look at this table and go, well, here's the kind of sign I want for my home-based business or for my business in a commercial zone. How is that regulated? And it tells you where it's allowed and, you know, how high it can be. And a lot of the material here is just placeholders. I took some of it from what you had done, Tanya, and I took some from the old sign ordinance, how we handled pylons and freestanding and that sort of stuff. But then immediately,
Thank you for doing this.
oh, yeah, I mean, that's how I'm thinking about it.
That's a good idea.
But
You kind of
immediately
see
the
it.
problems jump out. It's like, well, now a table can't capture everything, like restoring landscaping after you've put a sign in, maintenance. How do you regulate them at intersections? What do you do with obsolete or abandoned signs?
It's just the size.
There's, yes, there's gonna be some verbiage
There is,
necessary.
yeah. And this is not gonna be a quick thing, this one.
No.
But this is a start, at least to kind of
Yeah.
get some sizing of the signs.
Did you get the one from Gallup or the one that you were?
It was being passed around.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
It's making
sorry,
it
I didn't
better.
realize it.
Because you
It
really
was
liked
left
that.
sitting here.
Or you liked what
I like that idea of not having a standalone, have it inside the
Have it
zoning.
embedded in the
Yeah.
zoning ordinance.
This is like just one. Is there more than one here?
It'd
Yeah,
be
it's
easier
one
to
thing,
just flip
passing
to
it
that
around.
zone and say,
That's-
Oh,
here's.
just
the
pass it around.
Gallup,
Oh, I
yeah.
can't read it all and pass it around.
I just glanced at it real quick and passed it to you.
Oh, but they kind of broke it down into,
Yeah, they have tables that clarify the language.
yeah, I made an effort. Boy, that was a hard
Well,
thing
looking-
to say. I'll try to read that right.
In fact, looking at our old ordinance,
No, I have a copy of it.
looking at the old one, I found, you know, signs for residential use in all zones, A, B, C, D. And then I went, wait, isn't D exactly the same as A? It says, you know, detached or duplex, and I could not see that these were not identical.
Yeah,
So I think in trying to do this in a 25-page ordinance, we ended up tripping over ourselves a lot of the time anyway.
This was a very
There's a lot of
complicated ordinance.
redundancy. So what I'm hoping we can do is whittle it down to something that's more user-friendly. But as you do that, it becomes harder to enforce.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, on the size, if you're thinking of, like Edgewood has a lot of different areas. Some areas, everybody has 5 acres. Some areas, everybody has just a half an acre or so. And you might have neighbors right next to you, or you might not have a neighbor for a mile down the road. And I was thinking of a guy that lives on the corner of Dinkle and 344, and he's got East Mountain Roofing. And he had a professional sign made, and it's bigger, but people that go through there are, you know, they're going through the light and kind of going like 40. If you had a 2x2 sign, he's got it out in his yard, you wouldn't catch the phone number and
Right.
or what, you wouldn't even notice this sign. And it's a little bigger, but it's a nice looking sign.
Is that,
And I don't see that as bothering anybody. He has no neighbors having to look at it.
the problem with that, though, is it doesn't bother anybody until it does. Or that particular one doesn't bother anybody, but a different person applies the same standard that's in that sign to something 1.5 miles away. Now, how do you tell this person they can't have it?
Yeah, that's true.
Then it's subjective. You're saying, well, but that one looks nice.
That's actually an illegal sign.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
that's,
that a commercial property or residential? So that's an
residential.
illegal
I think
sign.
he's taking advantage that we don't have a sign ordinance usable right now, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
He's actually been in to change that, but
And he,
they
Well,
never
but
did.
in the old
Yeah,
ordinance, I
didn't.
looked at the section regulating lighting. Really? Do we shut anything off at 11 PM?
And
You
in
know,
a neighborhood. it
I
should be.
commute to work at Sunport at 3:30 in the morning on Sundays. And I think there's a business near me that I could see from outer space. It's so well lit. Now, I know some of that's security, sure.
Yeah.
It's not really lighting a sign. But it gets complex the more you get into it.
Yeah,
There's
the
so
middle
much
school
things.
has a big sign on a pole with
The video sign.
temperature and all that. And once the sun goes down, it's bright, but about 9 or 10 o'clock, it shuts off.
Yeah, I
So
like
you
that.
gotta
Like a
be
business,
counter-
their marquees or lighting, like McDonald's and stuff like that, their signs are supposed to turn off when the business closes. Or, how does that read? Or one or later than the other, or 11 o'clock. It can stay on until 11 o'clock at night, or until it closes.
Whichever is
something to that
later.
extent.
That's how our
Right.
ordinance reads right now.
Oh, okay.
Right, but,
But then you have stuff like that video
and
sign
the
that's at
residential
Juan
though, I
Tabone
wouldn't think
I-40.
there would be illuminating signs to begin with, would you? In the residential, I wouldn't see that they're big in.
No, in
No,
fact, what I
it
put in
says
the
none.
table
They
is
shouldn't have
no.
illuminated lights in
No,
residential.
it says none, so.
No.
No.
No, that'll stop
In a
them.
residential zone, no.
What is the size of the town sign that's up here in Edgewood? Is it a 3 by, I was trying to see how it meets the
Changed it
standards.
now.
4 by 8.
It's 4 by 8.
Now, I ran into some sticky stuff in this table I was playing with when you talk about temporary signs. Well, what's a temporary sign? Is it an 18-inch by 3-foot thing that's on metal stakes for a political campaign? Or is it a vinyl banner that's been screwed to a piece of
Well,
plywood?
usually the temporary signs is when there's a date involved where it ends.
And the reason I thought so much about it was I started thinking about banners in general. Well, and we have businesses here that have had a banner up for 3.5 years.
Yeah, if it was a banner for the day or something, but.
No, you know what I'm thinking of is those banners that they stick in the ground that are just faded and shredded from the wind and.
What do we do about the floppy guy, that the wind?
Is he a sign? What is he?
Let's hope we never get there.
Some of the churches use some of those banners that, you stick in and they flutter.
But I
They're
think
just in it for
we
a day.
probably do need to address banners.
Yeah.
in the
Or
course
the
of
ones that
this.
are tied up with, they got the holes on the.
The grommets,
Yeah, yeah.
Because they will inevitably fall apart in the wind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially out here.
Yep. Tarps.
Yeah,
Like a grand opening, you have that for a weekend or something.
so in
Yeah.
the table I was playing with, I just put 60 days on it. The same way we would any temporary sign that, you're
Yeah.
going to allow.
Yeah.
It's not in an easement, it's on private property, it's good for 60 days and then it has to come down.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's a little thing on metal sticks, or if it's something screwed to plywood, or if it's something that's flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not really.
Now, who keeps track of when they put it up? Do they have to
There you go.
come in and get a
They should
permit?
get a sign permit.
They have to have a sign permit.
Okay. And then we'd know when it went up.
Sign tops.
Yep. And it's awful to be sign cops.
It is.
And then if they don't, you just have to you have to notice it and approach.
We'll just have to create a board type, like a white marker
Yep.
type thing where we have calendars on it. And
Yeah, the sign has to come down on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if they don't?
Then we need to have some kind of a penalty assessment built into the ordinance. So if we are having to go out and pick up the sign, and then there should be fined for that.
Oh, okay. We can do that?
Sure.
Make some money.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of helpful information about signage. That's not our high priority. Our high priority for the next month or so, or month and a half, is roads.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we have time to kind of mull over signage.
Oh, yeah, the signage is gonna
Yeah.
take,
This is gonna take forever
Months.
because I'm
Okay.
sure it's gonna,
it's gonna get
But I think that's
contentious.
the right priority, and clearly, because I think the roads are really important.
Yeah,
I do
we have
too.
roads we've gotta get done. We have a lot of calls coming in for subdividing land, vacating lot lines.
So we may be hearing a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
may be
cases.
hearing a
Okay.
lot of subdivisions coming up.
Okay.
that time of year. And
Well,
everything looks real good.
As far as what you've done with residential, I'd say 6 feet for the height.
Okay.
That's the limit. And we somehow have to address at least intersections.
Yeah,
How
okay,
we're
I'll
gonna-
look
Well,
at
there's
something.
And that should be across the board for any site.
I know, like, we don't have anything like on the fencing and stuff like that, but when we were checking into that earlier, because I had a lot of fencing complaints, in the state law, it is stipulated that it cannot be over 6 foot tall, and it has to be so many feet back from an intersection if they are on an intersection or close by an intersection. So it does not interfere with the flow of
Okay.
traffic. So what we can do, since we don't have anything, we can pull that up again through the
Right.
state and use their regulations, because that's what
Yeah.
I ended up enforcing, because we didn't have one in our books.
Okay. So you just do it by reference, just mention the.
Well, what I'll do
state
is I can
regulations.
pull it up from the state,
Yeah.
and then that way we'll have some kind of guidelines. I know it's 6 foot tall. Do you know offhand how many feet back or anything from the intersection it has to be?
There's like a radius or something in there, it has to be so many feet back. Can't be in any of the side lines.
Right.
And I would
When you're at
probably-
that stop sign, you should not be able to see anything
Right.
except for the roadway. There should be no blockage whatsoever, so it has to be so many feet back. I
Yeah.
just don't remember offhand what the exact measurements
See, and where
are.
it gets tricky, you can say, we're gonna regulate this way per statute, whatever it is with the state. But then the state changes their statute, and now your ordinance is
Well, luckily, they don't
out of
change them
sync
real
with theirs.
often,
Yeah,
so.
I thought I
It's more
saw,
restrictive than that.
Yeah, you would have to be at least at their level. So we can't go less than them and expect to enforce
Sure.
that. We have to be at their level or more restrictive.
so we should probably not mention the statute in our ordinances.
If we're repeating their statute, we have to list it.
Yeah, and then we have to find a
Or
way
we have
keep track
to,
of
we have to
changes.
do our own. We can write our own, but
I thought I saw in the Gallup thing, it's a setback was 10 feet for business. But I don't know if that's corner or not.
We'll have to,
I'll have
I
to
just
look
kinda
at it
was
a little
looking
bit
at
more
it.
carefully. I just went ahead and just printed out that part. Their
I'd like
whole
to get a
zone is like
copy of that
280
Gallup,
feet,
if you'll
so-
send it to
Yeah,
us.
Yeah,
there's so much
yeah,
on
me
it.
too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to find
It'd be
something.
a good idea if we all kind of looked at signs as we drove around for a while.
And there's a
Yeah.
bunch here in Edgewood. My
Yeah,
goodness,
there's
there's
bunches.
signs everywhere.
Yeah.
Very signy. So as far as the billboards, you all right with that language?
What did you say?
They're prohibited,
Yeah, I was paying, since we talked about, I've been paying attention to them.
but non-conforming billboards shall be allowed to remain but may not be enlarged, expanded, modified, extended, or relocated. A non-conforming billboard, when destroyed by natural causes, may be reconstructed within the following 20 days to the same dimensions which existed prior to its destruction.
Where is all that written?
We discussed that last time.
It's in the last
It
page.
seemed like Lorenzo, just as a point of reference, was very supportive of more billboards.
Well, and I think we need to stipulate something too about when they are changing them out and stuff. Because over here at the bypass, underneath every single billboard, we get all the wood and debris, and they're not picking it up. So, and this is a lot of the companies that come in to change it out. It's not even the business that it's advertising, it's
So-
the companies that are
Workers.
doing it.
We need to have something said then in here about if they're gonna come do any work on there, they need to come check in with us and get a work permit to
For the
work
day
on
or
it.
something like
Yeah,
that.
and then that way we can hold somebody accountable for the mess they leave behind. Which I guess we could hold the property owner for the mess, because they're the ones that are
You're the one
hiring
that
them.
hired them.
Yeah, they're getting paid.
Well, like I went and talked to Dairy Queen, whatever it's called. And, because over here, there's like 3 signs that has just the old plywood, the tarps that were hanging up from it, the plastic and all of that, just underneath all the signs. So I went to him and he told me, well, that has to have been the company that was coming out here to do it. And I said, I don't know whose it is, but as far as I'm concerned, it's your name on it, and you should be held responsible for it. So he came out and cleaned it up, or he told me he was cleaning it up. I need to go back out and check on that again, but, so I think we definitely need to have something in place to where if we're holding the business or the company or both and a fee for that as well. If we're cleaning it up, if we have to come after them and after, so many warnings or so many violations or whatever, we can take the sign down, then it's null and void. Something, there's got to be some kind of stipulations that we're holding them accountable for it, because they're horrible.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize how much debris comes from one of those billboards until you walk up underneath it. Those things are
kinda
huge,
imagine,
and it's like sheets and sheets of plywood. It's not just one, it's like,
Time to just leave and get there. Yeah, the landowners should be responsible. They're the ones renting it to whoever's putting the billboard up.
Has our attorney weighed in on any of this? Or?
Not yet.
not yet. Usually we get through
We
this
have
first
to.
part, and then we send them a rough draft, and then we send it back and forth for months.
But
Yeah.
he knows it's coming?
Yes.
Okay. We're probably
and-
going to do a bunch of things he tells
Yeah.
us we can't do.
I think when
He
they
will.
get dilapidated and run down, they should have to be taken down.
Right.
Oh, I agree.
Right.
A lot of them are not maintained out there. Which-
Exactly.
Take it out or redo it.
Any further discussion of that? Or
I don't have it.
we're gonna put this on a back burner of sorts
Yeah.
while we turn our attention to lot lines and easements and subdivisions in the next few weeks.
Do people come in and ask, say, I want to put this on, do they ever really come in and?
Yes.
They do come in and ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they come in now and ask, we just will,
We go by what we have already.
just
in
what
place.
we have and
Yeah.
set up.
And it's pretty unenforceable, parts of it,
Yeah.
what we have.
That's why a lot of the signs that you see around town now that are in the right of way, we're not doing anything with because
Yeah.
of what happened during the politicking. So we're just kind of waiting for right now.
Yeah.
I didn't have a single sign in the easement.
I know, thank you.
It only leads to heartbreak and trouble.
People are just used to doing it because
Yeah.
they don't think about not doing it. It's been done for so long.
Right.
Well, then, if there's nothing further on signs for tonight, we'll move on to public comment. And there's no member of the public here to comment,
Public here.
save the mayor, who's already given us some useful comment. So on to item 7, matters from the chair and commission members. I don't have anything. To my left, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Herrera, any news, updates, anything you'd like to share?
I just wanted to ask, Michelle, I had asked you about that one house with the trash around the tree that was mounting up high.
Is that on Aspen?
On Aspen.
Which one? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We have some issues there.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had found out if it was clothes or real trash, because it's going to be hot, it's getting, temperatures
Yes,
are
and
going to get
it's
hot.
going to be a lengthy, we'll have to I think we should discuss it
Yeah,
here.
you can't do it right here.
Yeah.
May I ask you a question? Do we contract somebody to, when you have to have a cleanup, let's say you have to go clean up under these signs, or do you contract somebody to go do that? Who does that?
A sign?
Clean up
No.
sign?
Like,
No.
well, if you trash,
Usually I
like,
get James and we go out there and do it.
just wonder if you're doing it yourselves.
Oh,
That's
for
what I was
trash?
wondering. I mean,
No,
like,
we
if you
can't.
see something like that, like
No, most of it we do.
y'all been doing, I just was wondering who's doing
There's
that
some of
manual
them
work
that we've
there
been
here.
able to use, like when it's done on open space and stuff like that, we can use like community service workers and stuff like that to go out and help us get it cleaned up and stuff.
On private property.
But
we
for the
can't.
most part, it's
Yeah.
usually us.
And there's hardly anybody there, and I even thought to approach them and say, do you need help? You know,
No,
but
do
you can't
not do that. Do not do that.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about this at a later time, though.
Okay.
Uh,
That's all I have.
Is that all? Commissioner
Yes.
Hubbard, any
No, I
updates,
I
news?
think I'm good. I asked enough questions about roadside.
Nothing from me.
Okay, and then on to matters from staff.
Nothing. I believe that we already discussed what's coming, and
Yeah,
so it's fixing to get busy, I think.
okay. So everyone has seen the calendar update, future agenda items, and we've got our site visits and workshop on the 30th. With that, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.